All right. Hello, everyone. This is Justice Bellucci, and I am here with my amazing star sister, Ireland Clark.
Hello.
Um, Thanks for joining me. I'm super excited. Ireland is literally like my star sister, my guardian Blu-ray light warrior.
Oh,
So I met her synchronistically a couple months back over here in Mount Shasta. And it was a beautiful thing because, I thought I was alone here on Earth, but I see we have all the guardians have returned. so
yeah.
so thank you for volunteering to come down here with me, Ireland. I appreciate it. To come down on the prison planet, right? To change
Right?
it.
Yes. Thanks
What
for
a-
having me on. I love connecting with you and, bouncing things off. We're on that similar frequency wave and it
Definitely.
really helps. It helps me not feel crazy too.
I know, right? Crazy mission we signed up for, that's for sure, right?
Yes.
So I have a bunch of stuff I want to cover today, mostly just to expand people's minds. And like we were just chatting earlier about, a lot of humans think they have a limited perception because of the mind control, because of the manipulation and the darkness that's been perpetrated here on planet Earth for thousands upon thousands of years, right? But like every night turns to day, all the cycles eventually come back into the light and realign, and that's where we are. We're in the middle of the beautiful ascension cycle. So we'll start it off on, I mean, we're going to keep it positive all day today, but we are going to focus on the dark because in order to ascend, you have to know the dark as much as you know the light. And that's what a lot of the fake spiritual people out there try to avoid, the spiritual bypassing. So you don't get to the light by not acknowledging the dark and becoming aware of the dark. So that's the most important thing we're going to touch on today is exposing the darkness to empower people and make them aware. I follow and resonate with Lisa Renee and Ashiana Dean's work. I know you, Ireland, you resonate with a lot of Ashiana Dean's work, right?
Yes.
um, and it's all the same guardian material from the Christos founder races, right?
Yes. Yes. The CDT plates, the Cloister Duratura plates, they're like big holographic discs that hold all the history, all of the race origins, all the information that we need to really ascend our consciousness. It's back on the planet now for this new cycle.
Exactly. And so how do us, which we connect to that, and the guardians, how do they receive that information? It's through DNA and through anchoring in the higher light within our bodies in order to connect to that information, right?
Exactly. Some people don't have a resonance to it. I feel like it's something that you have to activate within yourself. Over time, at first, it can be a lot of information. It can be overwhelming. Because read things on Ascension Glossary years ago, and it didn't really click for some time. It took me a while for my DNA to really start coming online, for me to start putting the pieces together, and for it to start making sense. So, I think for a lot of people, it's just going to take time for some people to really understand it. But people are waking up and people are starting to see like what's really been going on and seeing the bigger picture. That's what I feel like the Guardian material really brings, is like that bigger picture. Like you look in all these areas of spirituality and you feel like there's something missing. And for me, when I came to the Guardian material, I was like, yes, this has all of like what I was searching for. Is that how you felt as well?
Exactly. Yeah. It was the stuff that I was downloading and activating within myself. And then I was guided to it. And it was just a confirmation of what I was already getting. So
Right.
that's how it works. So our higher selves led it to us. And I'm grateful, for both of them, to bring forth that material for us. And it's like the Christos mission where, we don't just complete the mission in one cycle. It's like we passed the baton, right? They did their work here. They passed the baton to the next generation coming, and now we're doing that. We're passing the baton to the next generation, and then before you know it, here we are, the golden age, right? So,
Yes.
but I believe we'll experience that in our own lifetime now. We're not going to have to wait because we are here moving into the golden age now. It's like the grand culmination.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I feel it. The frequency is getting super high, especially going into 2023. I can feel the energy shifting. The Guardians do say there is going to be a split in November of 2023 of this year. We have a lot of solar activity, so just expect a lot of different ascension symptoms because the energy is going way up. And it's really pushing those spirals apart, like the Phantom, the Metatronic spiral versus the Chris spiral. They're really going in their separate ways this year. So lots of good things, lots of disclosures coming this year. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. For like people who are trying to just, grasp this information about ascension cycle, and I know they call it the stellar activation cycle. Can you just explain like the stellar activation cycle, like briefly, like how it works?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, stellar activation cycle, yeah, happens every 26,000 years. It's when the stargates open, and when we move an entire dimensional field up an octave. So naturally, and again, there's so many different things that have happened. We had that as our Ascension A plan, where we were going to go vertically through the stargates. That was the normal shift from 3D to 5D. Okay, that was Ascension A plan, where we would just go right through the halls of Amente. And that was going to happen during the 2000s to 2017, until there was a potentiality of those stargates getting hijacked. The halls of Amente, it was way too dangerous for us to go vertically through. But if we were to go vertically through, it would have been like an entire 3 days of darkness. Everything would have gone like black, purple around you because the particles literally would have started fusing together, because there's different physics of different dimensional realms. So it would have been completely dark for 3 days. We would have went through that portal passageway, and we would have moved up through that portal entry point. Unfortunately, if you had the DNA, you could go through it. If you didn't, it wasn't going to happen. So that was the original Ascension A plan. Things happened. Stargates had the potential of getting hijacked. So we're on what is called the Ascension B plan. And that is a whole different plan. It's the crystal failsafe host matrix. So we have like the Aquari dragons coming in from the adjacent Akasha matrix. So we have like a quad Vecca. So here's our time matrix. It's hard to explain without like showing you, but like here's our time matrix. It's a 12 tree grid. And then on the other side, we have another time matrix. So the adjacent Akasha, the adjacent Kathara grid, from our Vecca system, our God world, because we don't have just one 12 tree grid. We have many different ones in the God's world. So a lot of the Aquari dragons, a lot of those beings came over to help during this host matrix, so that we wouldn't get sucked into a black hole, because that's where we were headed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we couldn't go vertically anymore through the stellar activation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that might have been too much. Like, oh gosh,
Yeah,
that's a
no, that's good. And I'll tell people to check out your stuff too, because I know you go more in depth. This is not something you can answer in a quick question like that. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of metaphysical and science involved as well. But for people that don't understand, look, so how exactly were we going to move? How exactly were we going to move from that old ascension plan? How were we originally supposed to move from one dimension to another? If
we
that's
were
easy to
gonna
explain.
Okay, yes, yes. We were just gonna go through the halls of Amente. It's a portal passageway that
So
moves.
in physical form, we would actually go into the halls of Amenti. We would travel there, right? And then what is it like? Literally like a Stargate opening portal.
Yes, yes, it's a portal that you go through, and it's just like a portal passageway with keys. Your DNA strands are like keys that open that portal.
Yeah.
So you
And your
really
your your s- your biological, your cellular structure, the particles actually like come apart and right, I mean you just move through it, right? And then they just recompose into like they show us in the movies. Like that's like the truth, like that's really how it works, because so many people actually think we're like literally just only physical only, but really we all we are is energy and particles just vibrating at high, different frequency bandwidths, right? you know
exactly.
So if everyone was activated to the fifth dimensional, if everyone had the fifth dimensional, fifth strand of DNA, fifth chakra, then they could literally move through the passage to go to the higher earth Tara, earth in a higher dimension, literally. So that's
Yes,
how it was designed to work. That's amazing, right? So
yes,
that's no longer happening because we have these reptilians and dark forces. So the stargates had to be shut down. So now the Ascension plan is actually something different. I heard that this is actually the first time we're doing it as a grand experiment where humans are actually metamorphosizing into higher beings while staying on the planet, right?
yes,
So
exactly.
instead of moving through the stargates and physically moving, we're actually transforming our biological energy light, turning into our light bodies, right?
Exactly, exactly. It's going into internal creation. So the inner earth core is being re-encrypted to eternal first creation, which is like the beginning of this time matrix, the originality of it, the organic essence of this time matrix. And again, we have a lot of beings hosting. We have the Aquari dragons, we have the Aquafarians from Andromeda. Andromeda is really helping us during this time through the Ark of the Covenant passageway. They're stabilizing
So
through.
when you say the dragons and Andromeda, for people that don't understand, these are beings in higher dimensions, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. The Aquafarians, they're coming from Andromeda in 90, which is the ninth dimensional field. The Aquari dragons, they're coming from another time matrix, from a 3D version of Earth in another time matrix called Yurthra. You
Outside of this universe.
outside of this universe. Yes. It's been a constant, like you said, a constant, working towards getting back into a homeostasis after all the galactic wars. Because again, we have free will, right? Like you said, God experiences itself through all of these timelines and time periods. But there is a point where it's like, we'll eventually self-destruct if we don't have protocols put into place to stop us from eventually imploding on ourselves. We can't go to the point where the entire time matrix gets blown up. So there are protocols, things put in place, like security teams such as me and you, right? The Azarites, so many different beings that were created, indigos, Orifim, to help in the process of, stabilizing the grid if something were to happen, like us getting completely pulled into a black hole system, which is what they were trying to bring forth. That was the whole revelation story. That's a whole nother thing for another day. I don't want to get into that, but
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
that was, the fallen angelics version of, taking us to the bottomless pit, which is Phantom Matrix. So we came in here knowing that our DNA directly connects into the grid to help stabilize with our higher DNA strand templates. A lot of the indigos have, 24, 36, 48 strands. That's very, very high frequency. It's like taking a microchip and, amplifying it tenfold and putting it into the computer. Okay. So we have that tenfold up switch in our frequency, the indigos. So we can really help the grid by just being here in physicality. So that's
Because
what
we
a lot
could,
of, what
yeah,
was that?
because we could pull in higher frequency than even 12 dimensions, right?
Yes.
That's the crazy thing.
So yeah, there's something called the Amenti Rescue Mission. This was the big reason why the seeding 3 happened on Earth, to help stabilize from the 5D Terra that exploded. Okay, so even before Atlantis Lemurian times, there was 5D Terra, which is the fifth dimensional version of Earth. Everything was going as planned. That was the second seeding of the human angelic races, the 12 strand beings. And again, unfortunately, the fallen beings came in, they blew up Terra, and it fragmented that entire consciousness, and a lot of souls got fragmented down into 3D Earth. So we had another seeding. The guardian races decided, let's try this again, let's seed them down onto Earth. Let's create, cloister races with different DNA strands to hold down the fort, as well as stabilizing the sphere of Amente, which held the morphogenetic field of consciousness. So a lot of us were part of that. It was called the Amenti Rescue Mission. Enki Joshua 12, we were all here for that. Yeah, the Christ body is the 12 strand minimum. Because
right?
again, that's the 12 tree grid, that's the Kathara grid, which all Kathara means is light, sound, one, because that is what this whole holographic reality is structured out of, is light and sound. Before
Exactly.
anything, there was just the sound tones and the light tones. That's what created matter form.
So the Kathara grid is the 12 tree grid, right? And so we mimic that, right? So we mimic that in our bodies. We mimic Earth. We mimic the planet. We mimic the universe, right? And so maybe you could just break down how, the 12 strands of DNA with the 12 tree grid works with the universe, how we ascend.
It's a mathematical template, so it goes by 12. So if people are confused on how this Kathara grid, this Stargate system was even comprised, it was from light and sound, okay? From the primal Kundare and Kirashe sound and light fields. So, yep, perfect. Primal light and sound. That's going to be the ascended master level. So, yeah, that's where the real ascended masters.
Yeah.
That's where they're chilling.
Yeah. So the 12 tree grid literally mimics our holographic time matrix, which is comprised of 15 dimensions, and above that is the sound field. And God is literally, this is God's creation, literally like God's video game to experience its own creation, which is outside of the whole universal time matrix. So as we ascend and activate our DNA, we can move through these levels and literally leave the whole time matrix and be back with God's source, where we came from anyway, in the beginning, and are there simultaneously right now. How does this correlate to our own inner blueprint?
So that structure in itself is the template of all manifestation form. So it's not only the Stargate system of the universal aspects of this time matrix, it goes macrocosm to microcosm. So it's just like the Russian dolls. It continues to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So the one you're looking at right now, this is like the universal, it looks like. It has a combination, the universal and the planetary Stargate system. But we actually have one of these in our own body as well. And it directly connects into these Stargates as well. So for every Kathara center that you have in your body, it mimics into the Stargate system that you see today. So like your one strand of DNA, which connects into 1D, your one-dimensional self, is right down there. It connects into parallel Earth, and so on. 2D, two strands of DNA, connects into inner Earth and Epsilon. And then we have Earth, right? That's your third strand of DNA. That's why in order for you to be in 3D, you have to have minimum of 3 strands activated. And then it just goes up from there.
So thanks for breaking that down, Ireland. That could become a whole. I mean, we could talk about that for a year straight. So, it's never ending. And this is just, it's hard for us because so much has been hidden. That's the real challenge, right?
Yes.
It's like we're here trying to just sprinkle a little bit of breadcrumbs just to help activate people. But if you really want to ascend, you literally have to dedicate your life to it. Literally, and the only way you can do it is by detaching from the matrix, because the matrix is the enslavement, life sucking force that is designed for you not to ascend, period.
Exactly. It's the phantom, it's the parasitic. That's the inversion of the 12 tree grid.
Oh,
Unfortunately, it's the Kabbalah grid. It's the flipped version.
yeah, I'll pull that up right here.
I'll pull that up.
So that's another thing we could explain. So this is God's creation, and so the dark ones, the fallen angels, their 12-strand DNA is cut off so they can ascend. So they literally created a whole fake, artificial AI, right? Matrix based on God's creation, because they're super smart, they're super advanced, So they mimic God's creation, but just create their own. And this is, maybe you could just touch on the Phantom Matrix and how they siphon the energy from a living universe and
Exactly.
us.
And us. And
they
us.
they are the parasites, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy how mimicked it almost exactly. But of course, it doesn't go up to the D12 because they've turned away from source. The highest that they can go is to a D11.5, which is like where Toth is, um, who fell, unfortunately.
And
But
so
with
that's why, because the 12D is the pure Christ light, so they can't attain
yes,
that. They don't receive that Christ energy. So that's where they get the antichrist.
exactly. And they're not even running on like a organic D11. It's a reversal of that. So it's a reversed sequence. And anytime you reverse live, it's evil. So that's all a reversal is. They're living in reverse. That's why they're considered evil. And in a normal organic time matrix, the original imprint was a living, breathing God source connection to fuel the entire grid itself, to fuel the entire time matrix, constantly bringing God's source throughout the entire structure. You're always connected to the Godhead. But through the phantom, unfortunately, you're not. It's parasitic. In order for you to survive in the phantom matrix, you have to feed. You have to get energy from something outside of yourself because mathematically, and again, this is going to go into more of the physics in terms of the encryption sets in the sacred geometry. But with the phantom, they're running on what is called a metatronic reversal. Okay. So it's what you see in the New Age, the daisy of death. They call it the flower of life. The architecture is distorted and fragmented. And it actually expands out from a 0 point mathematically, but it never goes back to God's source. And that's what makes it parasitic. It's called the golden mean ratio. So it's running off of a completely different energy than what was the original template for this time matrix, which was the crystal spiral, the Christ, the Kara Yasata Allah. That's the true eternal living and breathing of God's source configuration.
The Metatron, the Kabbalah, is actually base 10, so it's missing the full 12 dimensional blueprint. Literally, they just cut out it's base 10. Am I right with that?
Yes, yes, and it's flipped. But like when you see the Kabbalah grid, that's the flipped version of the Cathara grid.
That's the blueprint that they follow, the distorted blueprint. And this is the true blueprint.
And they did this very, very in a very, very mischievous way by flipping the axis, by turning us on a tilt, on a 23.5 axis tilt with a black hole technology called gravitron.
I
And
used
they
to
were
go in
able
that thing when I was a kid, and in the the Gravitron, it was called.
really,
No wonder why I felt sick in there.
it's just like a sci-fi movie out here. They really have this technology. They're
Oh
really
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's what I want to expose people to is like, listen, you have to realize everything you were shown was a complete lie. You've been lied to since birth. We are galactic beings. People are
yeah,
like, oh, ETs. Oh no, if something's coming from the sky, it's an ET. Oh my God, no. You're an ET. We humans are ETs that were seeded here by ETs, higher advanced ETs. It's
yeah,
like, hello, there is nothing. If you were to go to Venus or Mars or another planet in our solar system, or the infinite planets in the multiverse, well, then you could be called an alien because you came from another planet. It's
yes.
just so silly, and people need to break this programming. And a lot of the programming, this is what I really wanted to get into today, is the explaining to people what exactly the fallen angels are, because people have a very limited perception of what they just think. There's angels, there's just heaven and hell, demons, Satan and God. That's it. No, there's actually millions of species in our universe, both good and bad. We have a Christos line and we have a fallen angel line. And the reason we are in the position we are right now is due to the fallen angels. So, like I said in the beginning of the video, when you become aware of the darkness, you can navigate your reality. You know, if you're not aware of the darkness, that's what's happened. People just been manipulated and dumbed down. And we're just like the ants and the cattle down here, just walking around in a matrix that they built for us, not knowing how creation works, how it was designed, how to ascend. That we're actually in a game, we're in a simulation, you know, and are we're not meant to be stuck on one planet. So the fallen angels, I know there's a lot, but who the main culprits? I know you said were, and and me as well. I mean, we know the guardians are, you know, they call them Yahweh, Jehovah. Well, let's go how it originally started when the distortion first happened, when they wanted to, I guess, separate from the true blueprint of creation and do their own thing. I
Yeah, that
guess.
was way at the beginning of the Time Matrix, the Lyran Wars. That was the first fall or the original sin that happened long, long time ago. Because we had the natural, you know, Christos founder races. You know, we had the the feline beings in 12D, right? The Elohai Elohim, and
Mm-hmm.
then we had down in Vega and Avion, we had like the Pegasus beings. Okay, we had the Pegasus in 11D, the whale people, the aquatic apes. Those were all in 11D, and then in 10D, we had, and I'm pretty sure 10D is Vega. Yeah, we had in 10D the Seraphim. They're also the Mantis people. So some of the Mantis people, they're not all bad. Okay, some people think all the insectoids are bad. What came out of those fallen races is what's created the fallen insectoid beings. But those were the main Christos founder races in this time matrix. The feline beings, they came from the blue flame. The whale people, the Pegasus, those beings in 11D, they came from the purple flame from the Divine Father. 12D is from the Divine Mother, and then the Seraphim, and also the bird. They're also the bird people and the mantis people. They came from the gold flame, the Christ, the Christos, the Holy. So that's the Holy Trinity, the Godhead, Divine Mother, Divine Father, and the Christ,
Yeah.
all together.
So it was the Elohai and the Elohim were the first creator beings that actually created physical matter forms, right?
Yes, yes. That's why I love the Lyran beings. We have one right here.
Oh yeah. And they're literally like liquid light. They're nothing of physical matter, you know?
Yeah, they're
Um,
just swimming in light.
yeah, it's amazing. So like the Elohai, did they like they created the Anuhasi, like the lion beings?
Yes, yes. And then what digressed from that was the fallen Anu Elohim. And that happened when there was the wars between the 10th gate, the 10th stargate, the 10th dimension, and the 11th dimension. They were warring back and forth. I don't really know what happened, but the DNA just started to digress. I don't know if it
Yeah.
was in a virus that just came into the time matrix where, you know, those founder races, they just started to go, you know, in more of a reversal state. But 10D and 11D went very, very reversed. Okay, that's where we got the fallen dragon moth beings, the draconians from 10D. Those are called the black sun beings. And then 11D, where we got the fallen Anu Elohim. Those are going to be where like the fallen Anunnaki came from in 11D. So they were warring. And
Yeah.
that's when the first, you know, whole thing happened with them breaking off the 12th Stargate, which caused a bunch of issues that we had. See, we've been repairing from the beginning. We had to repair that too, you know,
Oh yeah.
500 million years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we, you know, we had the Anu Elohim, and then they created the Anunnaki from that. So, and it's
Yes.
just like, you know, we can create beings here, while higher beings create beings. So I always use the analogy like, you know, you have the Christos founder races, right? They were co-creating based on the divine blueprint of, you know, Christos DNA, how it was designed to be. And the fallen ones, they didn't want to follow, say, God's perfect blueprint. They wanted to do their own thing. They wanted to take this species and mix it with this species. And then now, hold on, you don't have a perfect creation the way God designed it to be. So their DNA, so they're literally already born with distorted DNA. They don't have that. So then they fall, and then they fall, and then those races, mate and then create new races. And then so it's all mixed. So this whole holographic universe is literally all races, just creating races upon races and different races. And we have ones that stayed true to the divine God's blueprint, and the other ones that are distorted. It's like if you have these low conscious humans that just breed puppies just for money. They don't care. They inbreed them, right? Whatever. All of a sudden you have a dog that is born is just angry and bites people. Why? It's not, he didn't do anything wrong. It's the ones who created him. They didn't follow the right thing, right? So the dog is born distorted. So that's what the fallen angels, they're distorted beings. And like I said, and you even say too, we're not here Christos beings don't kill other beings, because we're all sparks of God's source energy, but we're here to repair and balance. And, we have these high councils where we set up these different worlds and maybe quarantine them in there so that they could rehabilitate themselves, no matter how many, I don't know how many thousands of years it might take. But, and then it's also by God's divine perfect blueprint, like you said. If you're distorted, eventually you implode on yourself.
Yes.
I love the saying, like, within evil are the seeds of self-destruction, because that's just how it works.
Exactly. With that Metatronic reversal that a lot of them are running on, eventually, when they stop being able to get energy from the outside, molecularly, they just start compacting upon themselves, and then they just implode on themselves back to space dust,
And back to source.
back to
Nothing's
source.
nothing's ever lost.
Exactly.
It's
That's
just
the
there.
beautiful thing.
Yeah, because all it is, it's a whole simulation all the way up through all the dimensions. It's all an illusion, because we're all, it's like we're all God. And that's another thing, is people have a hard time, taking in, is that, oh, how can I be God? What do you mean? I'm not your
Well,
God. How does that work? It's like, you have to know creation. No one taught you this, right? But how we receive it is because we activated our DNA. All the answers are in our DNA. Our DNA was just shut off, so we couldn't receive the information. So as humans start to ascend and activate their DNA, this knowledge is going to come back. So what you and I are speaking about and teaching, it's what they're going to come to eventually when they activate their DNA. And the beautiful thing is that it's all the same. It's not different. It's not different. That's how higher worlds evolve and work in harmony, because they all know one another as God. They all know the truth. There's nothing to argue about anymore. Not about this story. Oh, your story's right. My story's right. Like we're all God experiencing ourselves, and we just move up to a higher level. But, we're the warriors. We came here to repair all the distortions and all the viruses. And it's brutal. It's heavily manipulated by these fallen ones. And we have the Anunnaki are literally like, they were like designed to take out the Christos races. Well, the
like,
negative Anunnaki. There are
yes.
there are some positive, not all of them are negative, but the ones controlling here, Earth, they were designed to take out the Christos races, right?
Exactly. Create like a slave race. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to reign supreme, service to self. That's what they're running on, their template. It's not about, the Christos, the Christos energies at all, service to others, law of one. It's polar opposite. So that's what they wanted to do, is to create more of their kind, and then eventually take over the time matrix with their beings.
Exactly. And so the negative Anunnaki, some of them are half human, half reptilian. Some of them are, all different, mixed. But the maybe you can explain how they came here and they raped the women to seed their own DNA here on the planet. And so a lot of people are like, oh, fallen angels, they're above manipulating us. No, they're in human flesh here with us. That's the thing
Yeah.
too. I want to make them aware. It's like, all right, you and I, we're the Christos beings, the indigos, the light warriors, and then we have just regular earth seeds that the memories wiped out. They just been trapped here, recycling over and over again, stuck. We also came to help free them, to help free many souls here. And then we also have the negative Anunnaki, negative polarized humans who carry the negative Anunnaki and Draconian bloodline as well. And that's what like all the DNA tests were about, ancestry and this and that. And that's what the Holocaust was about. Hitler, let's take out the Christos bloodline. It's like they know. So I want to wake people up to this. It's like they are here. We're fighting the spiritual war above, and we're fighting the spiritual war in the flesh. Like, do you think this Balenciaga bullshit? Do you think humans, Christos loving humans, angelic humans do that stuff? No, because they're not human.
No, they're not.
They're not
They're
here with us. They're here with us in the flesh, people. You
Yeah,
know,
and again, their bodies can barely hold. That's why they have to do terrible things such as getting, you know, adrenochrome and whatnot from small children because they need our energy. It's literally fuel for them to even stay stabilized in a human body. That's how much they're digressed.
can you
Uh,
explain that? Can you explain that more?
Yeah, yeah. So their DNA has for so long digressed that even just a human body, which is very, very angelic, a human body in itself, it's hard for them to even come into a human body. That's why they try to, recreate it through clones and all of this, but it's never quite it's never quite at that level where they can maintain themselves naturally. So they have to do certain things such as take energy from, unfortunately, not only us, but from especially smaller children that have more of a purity to them, a more pure essence. They have to take that energy. So unfortunately, that's what's been happening for some time now through SRA. Especially, that's a lot of like what the Black Sun beings were doing, more so like the
That's
Draconians,
how
right?
they stay young. That's like the
Yep.
vampires. I mean, I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, Sesame Street had a freaking vampire on it. I mean, the vampire movies have been showing us all along. They are the vampires. They feed on our blood, literally.
It's sick. It's sick. I saw something pop up on my Instagram. It was weird. It just popped up like a sponsored thing, and it was MGK and Megan Fox, and they were like playing out the whole vampire thing. And I was like, it's obvious. Like you could tell who these beings are. I could tell right away. They're Anunnaki beings. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people that I follow were still like liking their pictures. So I'm just like, you guys have no idea who these beings are. You have no idea like what they're actually doing behind closed doors, and we're praising them. They're like idols, right? Little do you know, like what they've been doing for this entire time period, how they've raped and tortured the Christos beings, like you wanted to say about what happened with the breeders and whatnot. Um, Sorry, that was Michael in the background.
That's all right.
Um, with the breeding that happened, a big timeline that happened was after Atlantis and Lemuria. They wanted to try to fully take out the rest of the Christos beings, so they went to Hawaii and they pulled a lot of the Iani women from Hawaii, where they were located near the 12th Stargate, and they pulled them out. They came through in fleets from Nibiru, which is what the fallen Anunnaki have used as like a battleship, Nibiru. So they came through, they picked up the woman. They told the woman, if you come with us, we won't kill your twin flames. We'll leave them here. They ended up taking them up to Nibiru to start breeding. They did terrible things to the woman because they had that high DNA strand template that they wanted to start to use. Because again, back to using the human body, they can't really get their genetics too far with how far they've digressed. So in their mind, right, the mind of a eugenicist, they're like, well, let's take a little bit of the high DNA strand templates and just enough so that we can recreate into a human body. But then also bring in all of our digressed template to make like a super hybrid being.
Yeah. So
That's when
yeah. they're super smart and they're master geneticists. So they're trying to create their own by mate. So let's get this straight for the people watching.
Yes.
These are advanced, distorted, negative fallen angels, not high, meaning love, but higher in dimensions that come here, have mated with humans and have been working on developing the perfect negative human hybrid to be here on the planet, right? So when people say, oh, are they shapeshifters? Do they come in? Well, that's a whole other different story, but they are making physical, biological humans mixed with their negative DNA and humans here that look just like us. This is a galactic society here. You just don't know it. You've been lied to. So these are negative beings who raped and mated with Earth humans, and now they're here on the planet with us. And this is the dark that you see going on the planet here.
A lot of people don't realize, like, we are unified, but we're unified through diversity. So the people around you, especially more so the people that, tend to be more psychopathic, people that tend to do, more narcissistic things, they're probably running more on these like hybrid genetics. And the more you
Exactly.
awaken, the more you'll be able to see people for who they truly are. You'll be able to just see, oh, that's not a human. Just like They Live,
I'm
that movie.
glad you said that. Yeah. Yeah, because now I literally know who they are, what type of species, and like I know how how their energy works. So like a Zeta Gray speaking, they make everything very complicated, super complicated, and like they make no sense. I remember when that lady you sent me, she wrote a freaking novel. She wanted to buy a crystal, and it was like AI mixed with Zeta Gray mix. I'm like, you could just spot all these freaking people now. You know what I mean? They're not
Yeah.
even people. They're just these different energies. So you'll, as you awaken your DNA and you evolve spiritually, you'll learn, oh, this is reptilian energy. Oh, this is Zeta Gray. This is that. You just know it's not the true Christ speaking through these beings, you know? So these negative ones who are mating with humans, they set up their religion. They set up um, this false father God religion to control humans, to keep them inside of this box while they continued their hybridization, creating. They wanted to make Earth their own.
Yes, exactly. That was more so so people think like Lucifer is like one person. Lucifer is more of like a collective. And that was a lot of the false father religions, like Jehovah Witness, which is what my family was in for most of their life, my dad and my mom, witnessing them go through worshiping a Jehovah God, spending half their life in a cult. And so I saw it, I saw it first thing, how these false father religions can really screw people up. My grandma, died of schizophrenia because of how fragmented her mind was from that cult. So that's what they created. They created, yep, false father God religions. Yep, everybody just think God's a man in the sky and you're separate from him. He's out in the clouds somewhere.
Fear God, right?
Exactly, exactly. People get so triggered though when you say that. When you say I am God, they're like, "What? No." It's like doesn't mean that I'm your God, but I am my own God of my own reality. And that's powerful when you really take that ownership back.
Yeah. Maybe you could explain on who Yahweh and Jehovah is. It's not one being, right? It's a collective, right?
Yes, yes, it's a collective. Yeah, the Jehovah's coming from the Jehovian Anunnaki, which are like bipedal dolphin people.
That's
That's what I
hard. It's hard to visualize, right? Are they
I
walking around like freaking dolphins, really?
I know. I tell that to my dad. I'm like, you are worshiping a bipedal dolphin collective. And he's like, what? I'm like, yes.
That's
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah, it's sick. Yeah, the Yahweh collective is all going back to the Metatronic eye of Yahweh, which is what controls like the Kabbalah side of religion. And that was to split apart the culmination of polarity to start merging, to start ascending, because that's what happens when you start to ascend. You start to bring those polarities into unity, right? Hieros, gamos, alchemical masculine and feminine.
Mhm.
What the Yahweh matrix was doing, and that what that refraction I was doing on the phantom of the Kabbalah was splitting apart the particles so that they wouldn't come together into sacred unification. So that's where the whole Yahweh distortion came about. That, yeah, that really screwed a lot of people up, created a lot of shadow body inside of people. You know, you were one side of you really wants to do better, you really want to, go in one way, and then the other side of you is like, no, it's like pulling you from that. That's like the reversed polarity that was put in through the Yahweh matrix.
The battle first starts within the battlefield of the mind, the battlefield, winning the war within ourselves between, dark and light, overcoming reptilian consciousness because it's embedded in us, whether
Yeah,
it's physically, you might not even be a hybrid. Some are and have that genetic distortion within them that they have to heal. But even the regular humans, they've been conditioned and brainwashed by them. So they're, even if you're not a negative polarized being, you still have that negative programming that you need to remove. So whether you're born negative or a human or not, we're just firing off these synchronicities today, man. So whether you're, we all have to heal. And if you're a human on the planet, you're here to heal yourself, period. Um,
exactly, exactly. We all took on the energies here. When you came in, 60% of your DNA got shut off, and you took on whatever distortion was running through the grid, whether that's Yahweh, Matrix, Phantom, all of that you had to take on karmically. But you, again, that's why I'm like so thankful people like you and me, and everybody who's watching this who could understand this level of frequency. Like, thank you for being here, because you did take on a lot of these distortions in order to help heal. But we do learn. Again, it's not, I always like to say that it's not like, oh, the evil's so bad and it should have never happened. I do think there's a divine plan for everything, and I do think everything happens for a reason, even if we don't
Yeah,
understand.
that I even all the way back up to the original sin, like when the first distortions happened, I believe that it was designed that for that happened because this is the whole holographic video game of God. If everyone just stayed in peace and harmony for infinity, how would you ever get back up to the top? Because the darkness is what is the catalyst for growth. Get me out of here. I want to evolve and ascend to a higher plane. So it's all by design. So,
Yeah.
like I always say, I'm all about the design of it from that higher God source energy perspective of it. I'm just making them aware because you have to be aware of the games and the
Yes.
darkness. Don't take it like, you're an infinite being of light. There is no such thing as death. So to like me and you, we laugh. I mean, all right, you come after you want to take me out. Okay, great. I'll just wake up and out of the illusion and just come back if I feel like coming back or whatever. There's no fear. I mean, no one can harm me. It doesn't matter. This is I know this is not real. It's an illusion. It's a game. So there's literally nothing to fear. And when you activate your higher strands of DNA, there's no such thing as fear. It's false evidence appearing real.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing. We're bridging the gap. That's part of not spiritual bypassing, because again, it's like, yes, right? It all happens for a reason. We get the bigger picture, but we also see, what's really gone on, the history, these types of beings, understanding these types of beings, what has really happened. And that's like the middle place we have to be in order to not stay in disillusionment of, oh, everything's good, kumbaya, and not look into all of these things that we bring forth that, some of the spiritual people would consider negative. Oh, don't go into that, you're just creating it through your mind. I've had people say, oh, if we just don't think about it, it never happened. And it's like, that's like saying the Holocaust never happened if you didn't think it. It's like, it did happen. Doesn't mean we need to dwell on it, but it's just having that understanding is
It
so
needs
important.
to be cleared. It needs to be cleared from our DNA. It needs to be cleared and transmuted back into the light, period. Um,
Exactly.
and spiritual bypassing is that's the name of the game. you don't you don't get to the higher dimension by skipping out the lessons. The lesson down here was duality. You have to master duality and unify and heal and transmute in order to move to the next dimension up, period. I mean, the major players here are the Draconians and Reptilians and Negative Anunnaki.
Yeah.
They've been the main culprits here. The Phantom Matrix, I wanted to say it's funny. I'm sure you notice this too. And all in the movies, they make black holes like normal in science. They're
I know.
actually anomalies. They're not from God. They're
Oh,
created by distorted freaking beings. In the
yeah.
movies, oh, black hole, and there's a black hole over here in the center, and that's how science is, and all these fucktard scientists. Dude, I never even passed science. And I don't, I mean, I made a funny post the other day. It's like you got 3D scientists trying to observe the universe through a 3D lens. Uh,
Literally.
It's hysterical. You know what I mean? And they're
Right?
here trying to teach, and these are the distorted ones with the DNA too. And a lot of these beings actually create these humans who have their DNA because they are their targets. So literally, they are slaves. They're created as slaves.
It's sad.
So they
It's really
create their own slave race to control them. So that's what the government is. A lot of the humans here, they can't break the mind control because they have their DNA, and they literally just use them as their puppets because they're connected and they're already distorted and very easily manipulated. And that's like they show you in the cartoon Disney thing, the Minions with the Freemason label on the cartoon guys. That's what their goal was, to create all hybrids with their negative DNA on the planet, because then, hey, it's much more easier to control and the New World agenda through their own minions. And that's freaking the story right there. I mean, it's like, you know,
exactly. They think, yeah, people think it's like just the Illuminati, like the Illuminati puppets we see, like they're the ones pulling the strings. No, they're actually the ones getting their strings pulled. They're more of like the
exactly.
Leviathan races. And yeah, they're the ones sometimes I straight up feel bad for them because once they're done, they just get disposed of. Like they
Yeah, they
don't
don't even care about their own race. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
they don't. They're just like, oh, out with the old, let's create another species, another hybrid, replace them.
Yeah, some
You
might even be born. They might just put implants in them so that they never find themselves, and they have to it's just to be those beings on the planet. Like I pray for all of them too, because it's literally, it's an abomination. It's abomination. Uh,
it
you know,
is.
from God, and that's like you were speaking about. I know that the Nephilim, they were an abomination. They had to be wiped out.
Yes, exactly.
They
Like
were like
woman,
eating people and shit, right? They were like
yeah,
barbarians. They were
it was
like giants just eating humans. I mean, imagine that.
it was sick. And those women that brought forth those beings, like they knew, like back in the day, like women were so in touch with their wombs, like they knew that they were about to impregnate a demon seed. So a lot of them, especially during that time during Nibiru, they would just walk off a cliff. They would just have like forced abortion. And I think that's why we see a lot of that today with women who have like anger and hatred towards having children. A lot of like the feminists we see today, a lot of it stemming back from these timeline trigger events. So again, that's why I love talking about this stuff. It's not to bring it up, take us back to the past. It's because, like you said, it's so healing for our race
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
remember this stuff.
And you just triggered something within me. These beings know, you got to remember, these are negative beings. They live for millions of years. So they've been watching from above, participating in this whole game, watching it all play out. So they know what triggers what happened with the last cycle that's already in your DNA. So they create these political different agendas and the feminist movement and all this and that, because they know it's going to trigger your cellular DNA within you.
Yeah,
That's why I mean, many humans were created as a slave race, and they worship Jehovah and the Anunnaki and Yahweh. They love them. They can't get it out. They're like, oh, that's a God. Why do you think you're like that? Because you were going like this in the last lifetime. Oh, Jehovah. You know what I mean? It's a fucking joke, people. Come
It's
on, it's in your DNA. You're distorted. You got to heal yourself. Jehovah, Yahweh, Kaki Anunnaki, all right? They are reptilians, distorted, hybrid aliens that have been, you have been their slaves. So, and we have these Zeta grays. So the Zeta hybrid grays, they're like half artificial, probably. They're like the reptilian do boys. They're like the little guys they just send down because they don't want to come down here to Earth. They just send them down to like, oh yeah, go abduct this one, get the DNA, and then we'll merge this and we'll make this. Okay, great. They're like the little freaking fucktard do boys over here. And we have Zeta, we have Zeta humans over here, half Zeta, half gray alien humans too.
yes. They're like the worker bees. A lot of them are on the moon. They've been on the moon, right? Which is the broadcasting system.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, we're gonna talk about that too. the Oh yeah, and everyone loves the grays here because they put them in the movies. So if everyone thinks of an alien, it's a gray with black eyes and shit, a little demon. Oh, that's cool. Oh yeah, you think that's an alien? What do you mean? What about the 10 million species in our universe? You think an alien is just a gray alien? You fucktard? No.
It's
Uh,
funny. Yeah, even on the iPhone, the little emoji, it's like the
oh,
little
thank you. You read my mind. That was it. Exactly. Thank you.
Yes,
Your
yes.
psychic senses are good. There's millions upon millions of species in our universe. These gray aliens and the reptilians do boys. This will be a fun video. I think people will have a lot of laughs and learn a lot at the same time.
Yes.
Earth is like a training planet for new souls. And they've been manipulated. These beings broke universal law of free will, infringing on free will of a species down here. So they can't intervene from above. So how does the high council and the higher dimensions of light of the Christos beings help a planet that is trying to evolve, that is manipulated by fallen angels? Well, they incarnate into one of them. Those
Yes,
are the guardians. Those are the Christos indigo races. And so just like they have the negative polarized beings of hybrids, well, when we had to battle them, right? So we created the Christos guardian line from the founder races, from the angelic, to come here to hold the light. So this is a spiritual war in the physical and the spiritual, all the way up to the 12 dimensions, and it fractalizes down all the way to the lowest.
yeah,
So in actuality, if we heal it down here, then we're also healing it above there as well, because everything's connected within our DNA.
exactly, exactly. And that's what we're doing. Bioregenesis of the entire planet, literally.
I'm telling you. So yeah, just like there's negative hybrids here, there's positive ones. We had to come here or else the humans would have no freaking chance.
Exactly, exactly. We're like the security team, like we're making sure that doesn't happen by being here. We're the hybrids, the quote unquote positive hybrids. That's what the indigos are because
Yeah.
they had to we had to somehow get down here. They had to bring some DNA from the higher strand, but also bring it in so that it could, alchemize and integrate down into 3D Earth. So that's where the indigos came in
Yeah.
and the Azerites.
And a lot of humans, I like saying the word humans. A lot of humans over here think like, oh, well, okay, well, how come they just can't come down and help us? Why would God do that? Why would they watch us in pain, misery, and suffering? You want to explain that?
Yeah, they can't intervene. They can't intervene. It comes down to the universal laws and us having to really go by free will, and us learning, of course, like intervening to that extent where like, if you could imagine like huge fleets coming through,
It
the whole
stops,
gig
interrupts the evolution of the whole game.
interrupts it.
Yeah.
The whole gig would be given up. Like everybody would just wake up at once, and unfortunately, they know that not everybody's ready. Not That's why some people can see the ships, like you could see them, right? You might even have, interaction one day, but that doesn't mean that everybody's going to, because not everybody's at that level. And they know that that could really screw somebody up if they're not ready for that level of information. Like, I'm talking people could go crazy, like
Oh
start
yeah.
losing their mind.
And that's why disclosure has to happen. It has to be sprinkled slowly because we've been so heavily manipulated as a species over here and brainwashed and programmed that it has to be sprinkled slowly, or people would just go jump off a cliff. They wouldn't be able to handle it.
Exactly. Your whole house of cards would just completely collapse. And a lot of people, they can't handle that. So, like, slowly, we're taking out those little pieces of the puzzle, slowly but surely. And eventually, it will all come down. But yeah, it's a divine sprinkling of information, of disclosure.
Yeah, yeah. And there's many people who are not ready to evolve literally and physically and energetically. They can't. They're not ready. So there's many different timelines playing out on a personal individual level for many people. And like someone, they just might live out their 3D experience in the matrix. And he's a lawyer, he's got a family. That doesn't mean he's a bad person, but he's just going to continue the 3D reality. That's fine. You know what I mean? That's fine. We're here for the people who want to ascend. That's all. That's it. And we're here to help you awake and remember. And if you want to ascend, then great, because this is a rescue mission for us. Literally, it's a rescue mission.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, we did our job. Our job is not to save everybody. That's not the rescue mission. It's not like, oh, we have to wake everybody up, make sure everybody ascends. Really, the reason for us coming down here was, yes, to, spread the knowledge, be the voice to the ones that want to hear it, but also, again, on a very architectural level, to hold the blueprint, so that at least we give those beings that are still evolving the chance to even evolve. Because without us coming down here and holding this blueprint, this high DNA strand, the whole template would have imploded. Like, the whole entire structure, the whole 3D Earth could have got pulled in, even up into the entire time matrix, into a black hole. So again, yeah, it was really about just giving them even the chance to evolve, because that was almost going to get taken. And that's where the protocols are put into place. When beings aren't even given a chance to evolve under their own free will, that's when we have to really come in, to start
Yeah.
anchoring in.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Like you said, a lot of beings don't realize how powerful they are. I mean, a lot of the light workers and star seeds, you don't have to change the world. Just you holding the frequency and being the light is literally, if you imagine it, like we're all these light bulbs, electrical conduits that are plugged onto our planetary body and powering it on, with these frequencies, restoring it back to its normal. I mean, I look at Earth as like a body, just like our bodies, literally. It's like you got positive cells and white blood cells and red blood cells battling over a virus inside your body. And then it restores it and brings everything back into alignment in your own being. And so our physical beings mimic the Earth, literally. And the Earth mimics the solar system and the galaxy. It's actually very simple, but yet advanced at the same time. I don't know how to explain it, but it's actually very simple.
It's literally like universes inside of universes, just like in your body. Like you said, you have your cells. We're like the white blood cells of the Earth, like in her body. So it's
Exactly. Yeah, we've been shitting on it. We've been creating inorganic substances and root and destroying our own body. Think about that. But no one knew because we humans were so detached.
Well, don't even think that it's your fault, because again, you were just birthed into this system. Like, you weren't taught, how to really take care of the earth. You were just told, like, this is the way it is. You go to this store, this corporation, to buy this, and then go here to buy this. And there wasn't many options, especially, even couple decades ago. Like, they made it literally their own system
Yeah.
that served them and Phantom, meaning, yeah, drain Earth of all for resources, use parasitic corporations to, get funded tons of money while they're giving nothing back to the Earth, having that distorted relationship with the Earth. And that's where, right now we have to start taking back our power and start to, help Earth, support local, support people that are helping use like sustainable resources and whatnot. That's how we can start shifting individually as well back to the Earth.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's great. And everything on Earth that we think is normal is actually killing Earth, and it's inverted. There's nothing nothing of the 3D. The 3D matrix was a prison enslavement system, literally, and the bait to stay inside of it to keep you in was money, which is monopoly money, which is fake. So it's this is not the what people think is normal life is actually hell. It's a prison planet, and it's not a creation by God, period. It's
No.
the world we're living in, the society is we're living in Satan's, if you want to call it Satan, negative Anunnaki, and these all these dark beings, distorted fallen angels. They created our reality for us, and they made us think it was real life and
Yes.
lied to us since birth. And this is what people have to wake up to. It's like, hey, it's okay if you were wrong. A lot of people, they don't, their ego is so, you know, so there that they don't want to be wrong. I can't be wrong about anything. Oh my God, I can't be wrong. What do you mean? Admit it. It's okay. It's like, hold on. If I knew your girlfriend was cheating on you for 10 years, or if I just found out, would you want me to tell you, or pretend like, or tell you, but then no, and then still ignore it, pretend like it just never happened? It's up to you. It's like, just admit it. You've been lied to. Nothing is real. Everything is a lie. This is it. And so that's what people have to wake up to.
Ignorance is bliss for some people, though. They really don't want to see it. It's like in the Matrix movie, that one guy who was like, I just want to go back. He just wanted to go back into the Matrix, and taste the steak and go back into the illusion of the sensation, the sensational world and the stimulation. And I see that with a lot of people. Like, even when you try to show them things, it's like they don't even care, some of them.
Not
That's a
ready.
lot
Yeah. They're
of
not ready. Yeah. Not everyone's
not
ready to receive the information. And like I said, it's a game. Some people might have to go around the merry-go-round for another 26,000 years of games and experiences and lives to ascend. And it's like, it's still okay. It's
Yes,
like that's by design. It's like, you know um the I see from a higher perspective, like, the vaccine was designed to stop dormant DNA from activating. So
yes,
regular 3D humans to say, oh, it's the darkness, they're trying to control us. Yes, that is to a point, because that's just what they do. But on a higher perspective, if a human being is not ready to activate their fourth strand DNA and fifth strand DNA, you can't go to the fourth grade or fifth grade if you haven't mastered the third grade, which is duality 3D Earth. So the sun activates all DNA, right? The photon light that we're moving into the golden age. So how can we stop their DNA, the humans who are not ready to be activated? Because if their fourth strand DNA becomes activated in fifth, they will literally commit suicide and flip. So let's do the vaccine so they could live out their 3D reality as they were in that game that they're ready to experience, because their soul's not ready to evolve. So, I'm not saying, hey, it's great, but there's a bigger design, there's a bigger perspective to
yes.
to all of this. So even the dark is by design, like I told you that one day. I'm We're just trying to make you aware of the dark, because do you want to level up? Do you want to ascend? Because you have to clear out all the darkness within yourself. To clear
Yes,
out all the darkness within yourself, and to raise your frequency and vibration, and to take in more light, you have to remove the darkness and the programs to be ordered to take in new light, period.
exactly. So you have to be willing to see them. But I love how you
Exactly.
bring that higher vantage point of like the darkness is working for the light. Because, yeah, I even say this all the time. Even the fallen angelics, they're still part of God's source. In the bigger schemes of reality, it's part of us that has fallen. If you really connect to the law of one, it's part of you that has fallen. And we're all we're all in it together, as we learn, as we ascend. And you're right, we're all just at different levels of understanding. But again, it's so important to see the darkness, see what's happened, see what these beings have done, and then we can move on. We could see it, we could bring light to it, and then continue the ascension process, the removal of all of the heaviness, the densities within our templates.
Yeah, I mean it's like that's how we get to heaven on earth. Like they want to talk about in the Bible of whatever. Well, we were already there, so we're just moving back to the future. That's
Yeah,
all. And it takes the dark to learn there. So we have to learn our lessons to get back to where we were because we just fell. So now we're just reversing and moving back to where we were. It's just boop boop. It's just it's all it is. Everyone has to learn their lessons of letting the darkness infiltrate their minds, their souls, their heart, and so that we can see it, so that we can evolve and learn from it, and not take away and not what's the word, abuse our powers again, because we were advanced beings and look what happened, right? If we look into how it fell, right, we were flourished for thousands upon thousands of years, and then they wanted to slowly experience darkness, and then they put the frequency out for more negative beings to come in because they were doing, it was a slow digression because they were like, oh, duality, right? You're in heaven on earth, rainbows and butterflies forever. It's like, oh, maybe it's cool to experience something duality, and then one person did it and then another one, and then it drops, and then now you call in more negative forces because you're participating away from that. It's just how it works. And this planet will be the light of another 1,000 years, and is it going to fade away and go into darkness again? Yeah, I'm sure it will. But we won't be here. We'll be ascended up in our evolution. We'll be in another universe, another dimension, another world, whatever. And there'll be new souls that'll come here.
exactly, exactly. Source for sure learned through itself in this time matrix.
Oh yeah, this was a great experience.
Yes, yes,
Source.
it is.
We're getting there. I mean, I would love to leave tomorrow and go back to the heavenly dimensions, but hey, no matter how long it takes, we're warriors, and we'll do our mission until it's complete, right? You know,
Yes, yes, and so it is.
so it is. So thank you so much for your time, Ireland. It was great,
Oh,
and
thank you for having me on. It's so awesome to connect to you, soul brother.
definitely, soul sister. Until next time, keep fighting, keep doing your thing, and we're going to win the spiritual war, and we'll all rejoice in the golden age.
Yes, yes.
Tell
Thank you.
Michael I said hello.
Okay, I will. I
All right,
will.
take care, Island. Much love.
All right, much love.
All
Bye.
right, bye bye.